Yes, Nadia, we do expect the vote to happen today. Exactly at what time, it is not clear, perhaps later on this morning, because there is increasing frustration from Arab states. They just want this vote to go ahead. The United States appears to continue to have problems with the wording of the resolution, and so diplomats have indicated to me that we may expect a US veto. That said, nothing is certain. We don't know for sure the vote will go ahead. We don't know for sure how the United States will vote, not until this actually happens. Let me explain to you what this resolution is. It was drawn up by the United Arab Emirates on behalf of Arab states, and it really was an attempt to build on the previous resolution that did pass through the Security Council that called for humanitarian pauses. This wanted to call for slightly more than that. It calls for a suspension of hostilities, and also it called, crucially, for something new, for a UN aid monitoring mechanism to help supervise the aid coming into the Gaza Strip. And this appears to be the main sticking point for the Americans, largely because, diplomats have told me, Israel objects to handing over any control of the supervision of aid to the United Nations. You may remember that Israel, over the past weeks, has been extremely critical of the UN and of Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General, in particular.
So that's the American position, Jessica. And how do other diplomats from other nations feel about that? I mean, is there sort of frustration now at the American position and therefore at the delay?
Yes, there's an awful lot of frustration because, as you well know, because we've seen those votes in the General Assembly, the vast majority of member states here at the United Nations want a ceasefire. This resolution doesn't even call for a ceasefire. It just calls for a suspension of hostilities. So it's much milder than a ceasefire call. The US would never let a ceasefire call pass because, like Israel, the United States believes that a ceasefire would only benefit Hamas. So there's mounting frustration, and I can even say anger here at the United Nations, anger towards Israel for what even Joe Biden has called its indiscriminate bombing of civilians in Gaza, and also anger towards the United States for blocking further Security Council action. And so all eyes will be on how the US votes today. Another thing that is making diplomats here very frustrated is the impact that this is having on the United Nations and on what the US stands for, and that is rules-based order. You see, when you have the US arguing when it comes to Ukraine, that Russia is breaking international law, and then defending a country, Israel, that is widely seen here as breaking international humanitarian law, then really you see a situation where the United States is accused of double standards, and where it blocks any action in the Security Council, it really makes a mockery of the United Nations.